Okay, guys, so I was just about to create a GitHub code space, and I thought this might be a good opportunity to just throw the sort of I was going to say the camera on, but I'm not on camera, but just throw the recorder on and just maybe showing you how I build it. I'm just in this demo organization. I'm going to build it in here, show you how it works, and I'm going to copy it across and use it in my project. But enough of the talking. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to start a new repository, and we'll just call it something kind of, let's just call it widget or something like that, right? I'll keep it private. I'll put an add me on there. We'll just create that repository. It should be quite quick. That's great. So I'm just going to press the full stop key or the period key. This will just open up the editor. Now, some people do confuse this with the Codespace editor. It's not the same thing. This is the VS Code Online editor. The Codespace editor that we're going to see in a moment is going to have a fully fledged terminal, and it's going to have a background kernel. Now, this is fully loaded, but you'll notice that my setup's a little bit different to yours. I have got I have got profiles on and syncing on, and you can see I've actually got some profiles. Now, my default profile, which I'm on now, I actually use the secondary start bar. So I'm just going to press Control Alt, and then I'll press the B just to jump into that, and we can see my README. To create a code space, basically we're going to be using DevContainers. Now, you can go online to the website. I think it's just I think it's something like DevContainer.com or something like that, or no, it's not DevContainer.com. It's something like container.io or container.dev, guys. I mean, sorry, look, by all means, just give a quick Google to it. But basically, it's a specification for creating containers. All we need to do to get this to work in VS Code really is, I shouldn't even say VS Code, within GitHub, is just create a new folder. I'm just going to call it DevContainer. That'll get us going. Now you can see I've got some funky icons going on, which will give me the symbol here. Now inside this dev container, to get this going, all I need to do is create a file for the dev container. So I'm going to do that now. Now, when you're creating your dev container, you don't necessarily have to have a Docker file. You can just create a dev container. So a dev container is dev container, that has the JSON ending. And we can build in here, but you might see some setups where you have the dev container, and then within the dev container, they also have a Docker file, and we can tell the dev container to run the Docker file with some directives, and I can probably quickly show that in this video as well. But ideally, what I want to show you here is just the concepts, get things working, and maybe as we do some of the Azure functions and AI stuff I promised in the last video, we'll look more at the dev containers. So without more of a delay, let's just go into this. So in my dev container, what I want to do is I want to install some software, I want to install some extensions, and I want to put in some configuration for what I need. And I'm going to base all this on a popular image. Now, to do this, if we just come over here, this whole dev container is going to be basically made out of JSON objects. So if I just start a JSON container object like this going, first thing my container is going to need is going to need a name. Now, a lot of these things you can see already with sort of IntelliSenses and GitHub Copilots and all these modern technologies that you can have access to. You can turn on a number of technologies, and then either through sort of prompting with commenting for Copilot or through linting helpers, as you can see now. Creating these dev containers is going to be really, really easy for you. You just need to remember a couple of key pieces of information. Typically, you're going to want a name for your container. This is what it's going to be referred to. You can also have multiple dev containers, and there are setups that we'll go through in the future. I am quite conscious that I over-explain stuff, so I just want to get things moving in general, guys. But what we'll do here is we'll make a container. We'll make it based upon Debian. I'm quite fond of Debian. Debian 10 is a sort of a good stable distro, or Debian 11. It's been the cornerstone of a lot of my projects, so I'm just going to use that. But you can put in whatever you want. Ubuntu. Let's just call this Debian DevBox. And my purpose here is for Azure. So what I want to do is I want to move some of my setup into Codespaces. I've got a few containers already that have Azure CLI utilities in them. However, for this particular purpose, I need a select set of utilities. So I'm going to call this Debian DevBox Azure. Now, you're probably going to want an image. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to press Control B and just close down that sidebar because it's annoying me. I'm just going to do Control and then minus key just to go out once. I hope that is still large enough for you to see. Pause. Okay, I'm just going to put a comment there, by the way, so I'm going to start on the next line. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to put the image in. So let's just do an image. Now, for the images, you can actually just copy the images that you need off of the web. I've got one here. This is my preferred Microsoft container, and I like to work with the Microsoft containers when I'm working with Azure. So I'm just going to go and use that. That's my base Debian 10. You could change that to 11 for Debian 11. In this case here, I know my code already works with Debian 10, so I'm just going to keep that. Now, at this particular point, we can add on features, and I'll show you these, and we'll come back to these later. But for now, I'm just going to put features, and I'm going to put an empty object, so just like that. Now, in addition to features, there's a few other little things that we can do, and some of these things are more customization of our actual development environment, so the actual VS Code itself. So to get your customizations to work, just put a comma there and I go down. I just press, there you go, customizations. Now, within customizations, you can break this down to multiple sections. So there's the code space itself, they'll have customization. So we could come down here and we could do code spaces, and we'll just leave that as empty for now. But there's also the VS Code itself, right? So the VS Code could have its own customizations. And if you've ever done anything inside the VS Code folder, you can do a lot of that stuff here. And the way this would work is you do something like settings, and you could even do extensions. And you just saw there devport. Now, I have a whole host of extensions I normally use, and I've got a big list that I normally filter through, and I'm just going to copy and paste them in off of my other project that I've got here. So this is my template of extensions. So I'm just going to go down here and keep this list. And inside here, I'm just going to paste that. Now, these are all different extensions for different purposes. And I can filter down here, but I'm just going to leave that there for now. Now, those are the customizations. Outside of customizations, there's a couple of things that we can also do to run additional things. So there's additional code that we can run and do. So to get these things done, I'm just going to come down here. In fact, what I'm going to do to make this more readable is I'm actually just going to fold this up. So I'm going to fold down the extension, so that's folded. And then under here, this would be sort of add in ports and that kind of stuff. That would close off our customizations here. Underneath our customizations now, we can add additional things. So let's go through a couple of things that you might want. So if you've got a very, very powerful container requirement, you might want to specify what the minimum host requirements are here. And you can do that with host requirements. So now with host requirements, there's actually different levels of code space you can run after you've started to use code space for a while and after you've run a few workloads, and you actually get access to higher spec resources. But what you could do is you could say a host requirement for this workload is going to be, then in here, you can specify what that is, like memory or whatever it is. So you can say here, memory storage, So let's say we pick memory, just as an example. I could say, look, I want the code space with an 8 gig setting. Now, in this particular code space, I'm going to be doing some development work, and whoever's done any development work with Azure will know that when you're running the Azure tools to do the development work, you're going to be having port 7071 exposed. Now, we can have that set in our dev container, so that port, when it gets forwarded, is always open for us, right? So we can set a forwarded port here, like that, forwarded ports. And then that one there, just so people are aware, that there is the Azure dev port, right? So then, in addition to that as well, you might want a user. Now, you don't typically have to set a user if you're just going to be doing dev work in your container. But if you've got a setup that requires a certain layout of home folder or something of that nature, you might want to set the home user, and you can do that. So that's normally under user or home user. I think it might even be remote user or something like that. But like, there you go, remote user or those container users. So you can say remote user. And this could be, I mean, typically for Microsoft products, I've always found that you can't really go too far wrong if you type in VS Code. But again, this could be your root or whatever it is, right? So VS Code. Now, depending on what you want to do after your setup, there's a number of scripts that you can run. There's a number of environmental variables that we can stick in here. If you want to put in a container environment variable, which I find quite useful, because I can, without going too much long-winded, I'm just going to clear this off, by the way. Without going too long-winded into this, I have tools which will actually check for environment variables to allow for situational awareness. So let's say, for example, now we go into here and go container environment. What I could do is I could say, let's set a code space friendly name. So let's do something like code space friendly name, and then it might be here, Azure box or something like this, right? Something that you might want to look for in your script. I guess on that point here as well, while we're talking about scripts, let's talk about some of the scripts. So there's a couple of scripts that we can run during various stages of our container being created and being deployed and just basically starting up. And if you want to refer back to the Azure docs to get the, sorry, not the Azure docs, the GitHub docs to get the definitions, these again, you can do, but basically there's a create command. So this is going to happen once the actual container is created, but then there's also this start command. Now, the start command will be every time the container starts, not just when it's created. So the first time it's created, that will be the created script, but then you've got a script for every time it starts. Then there's also another script, which is every time that you attach to the container as well. Now you can specify all these, and you can just put these as scripts inside this dev container if you wanted to keep it isolated, or you could have some other folders with whatever helpers or scripts in here. To make these work, you basically have all of these kind of post commands. So if you just type in post anyway, you'll see them all. And it's like post attach. Yeah, there you go. So you can see here we've got post attach, post create, post start, and you just do something like this, and then you could do bash script, dev container, and then let's do a post create. You could do a post start, and again we just do the same thing again. Like that, and then let's just do the what's happened there. Go. It's just like development work is just so much easier these days. Like I remember like starting off like at the age of like, oh god, like I probably don't want to revisit that so people know my age, but yeah, just like I remember a day before color, syntax, highlighting, and line numbers, and I actually remember a day of actually having to count the lines, and Yeah. So, but the point I was going to get to is, these days, guys, coding is really painting by numbers. The amount of IntelliSense and helpful stuff that you've got. You can see here, like I've not really needed to prep anything for this lesson. As long as you remember roughly where things are and roughly what commands you need, it's so easy just to discover this stuff. Sorry, I'm just, you know what? I've even made a mistake here. I'm waffling on as I'm talking to you. Lovely people. And then, as you can see here now, so we've got our commands. What else might we want to do in here? I don't know what else you guys might want to do. Oh, we didn't really do anything over here, did we? So we've got the settings, we've got the extensions. So in terms of settings, this is like if you've ever had, the VS Code folder. So you might have a VS Code folder in your project, and inside this VS Code folder, you might have like settings, extensions, and launching and tasks, and all this kind of stuff. What I'm saying to you is inside here, we can also have all this beautiful goodness. Let's put a dev point. Actually, no, sorry, I was going to do the settings, wasn't I? Sorry, guys. In here, we can have all this useful stuff. So let's say, I don't know what we want here. Let's do some settings. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll put a default terminal. So, and you can see here already, I've just typed in the word terminal. One of the beautiful things here, I already know I want the default terminal profile to be set. I've typed in TER. If I start typing in profile, you can see already that the TER and then the profile has been selected. And if I just typed in LINUX, I'm just like completely there. So I only need to know a little bit. And then you can see here, like, I'm already getting some really good defaults that I can come in and I can customize and configure. And again, see, I can have a default profile for my container on a Windows box. But yeah, like, whatever you want here, is what you can add really in any of your settings. So I do have some setting files that I typically keep. Let's just go through some of the ones that I have. So for example, Python, if you just came down here. Now, with most of the languages, is a quick tip, they will mostly start with the square brackets. And if you've got all the IntelliSenses, and I haven't got GitHub Copilot on this one at the moment, but if you've got the IntelliSense on, if you just type a question mark, then you start typing a bracket, you're going to get a good starting point for all of your languages. So let's just say Python. And you can see already, like, I'm just getting so many good insertion boilerplates coming through. Now I can just go in here and I can start really editing this and changing this. So let's say, for example, I wanted a default formatter. I could just come in here and go, okay, well, I know the default formatter is going to have the word default and formatter in it. Let's just come in here and go question mark, and I go default format. And you can see now already I'm getting that up. Now, the beauty of this is it can already detect what extensions I've got down below. Now, I typically go for YAP. I don't know if I've got it in. No, it's not down below. But like normally I go for YAP, but it could be something like Pretty or something in this case. If I got Pretty on there. So there you go. You could have Prettier. But you can see it's really just like painting by numbers. I don't know how much I want to go into the settings, because I guess we could do a whole video on the settings, because I actually have quite a lot of settings that I do apply. Yeah, it might be. In fact, just while we're on this thing, maybe I just throw in there one more interesting setting that I use, and that is Explorer file nesting. And the reason I'm going to say this now is I just find it so useful. But essentially, have you ever had this thing where you've got like multiple files? So let's say we've got like web something, web.py, and then we've got another file, and this file will be to test web.py. And it doesn't have to be PY, it can be PowerShell tests, it can be interactive notebooks, whatever we want to capture, but it might be something like, web.py test.py. Now, when we have that set up, we've got two files here that we have to keep track of. One of the settings that I like to use is this capture grouping that will allow us to sort of group these things together. Now, I don't want to do this within the Python, but what I can do is I can come down here and set another one up. And I know it's under Explorer. I know it's under file nesting. So you can see here, file nesting. Obviously, we're going to have to enable it first. So let's enable it. And if I just enable it and go true, then you saw already there's going to be a patterns part here. So if I just go, I go nesting, I go patterns. Now, these have all just come straight in, but you can see I haven't actually got a Python one here. Just to sort of demonstrate the power of these, if I just go here, and let's say I put this as py, that's my capture group. And then in addition to my capture group, I then want test.py. As I save this and into my template, this is going to be merging these two things. Now, this is obviously going to be my template. Let me just show you this over in VS Code. So if we come over here and I just set up a settings file, just call it settings.json. And I just come in here and let's just go Explorer file, nest enables, and we'll go true. And then we just do file nesting patterns. If I just take this back out, although it's not exactly a big slog, is it, to recreate this? But if I just go and take this back out, copy that, let's just put it in here and let's save that. Can you see that we now have this grouping? This is just one of those things that I just use so often. I find it really cool, but not many people know about it. It's just one of those things. But I do a lot of setting in my settings file, and I like a lot of customization. So again, if it's something that's really like interesting to people, I don't mind doing it, and we can go through all of the different settings and how we really configure this up, and we can go through shortcuts and tasks and how we can add on extra functionality. I mean, if you're not used things like tasks and had custom environments and stuff where we can like launching resets, like custom Python resets, for example, and you can do that in the dev container, but we can also come over here and we could do like a task.json, and then within this task.json you could have like a task here. I don't know what we'd call it. Let's just put a version of our task. I mean, yeah, let's just go through all these defaults, right? So tasks. Let's create a task, and then inside our task, what we're going to call it, label. We said reset Python, didn't we? So let's just do reset Python, and then let's go type, not a process. Let's just do a shell command. And again, like we could go for all of this kind of stuff, but then you'd come down here and then we could have something like, a command, and the command could be like, a bash command that does like, deactivate, renews the Python environment, does a pip install, that kind of stuff. It could just, it can be anything, but one of the beauties we have here is we have the workspace folder as an environment variable that we can play with, and then we can do things like, workspace, folder, and then we could do insert helper.py. But again, I'm kind of digressing, guys, but it's really easy to make all these tasks run. And then once you've got these tasks, Control Shift P, you go to your task, go to task run. So I didn't actually select anything there. Go to task run. I think it wants me to finish on the rest of the whole task, so I can do that for us now. But basically, if we fill in the whole thing, it's just going to pop up with a box that's going to give us like access to all of the list of tasks, guys. So like, I mean, I could do this, but I'm kind of digressing where we are in terms of the initial point, which was going to be how we're actually going to build this code space. But let's revisit this, and I'll come back to tasks anyway. But the point being was, before I went on this this whole wild journey, we can integrate these things into our DevContainer templates, so we can have all the settings and that kind of stuff. But yeah, anyway, I'm digressing, guys. So we've got to this point now where we've got a DevContainer. Let's test it, and let's see if it actually works. I haven't created these things yet, so let's just also create these things. Now, you'll notice I haven't got a terminal to pull out at the bottom, and even if I do press Control and the thingy key, I'm trying to think of what it will be on the American keyboard, but oh God, I think you have the, I think it's where your @ sign is, I think. Anyway, you press the shortcut. If you don't know the shortcuts, by the way, you can just get the keyboard shortcuts up here, and you can go and see the mappings and stuff. So if you just type in keyboard, just press Control-Shift-P if in doubt and start typing. You can find everything. But yeah, here's the keyboard shortcuts reference. So yeah. Anyway, digressing again. Let's just keep going, guys. I'm going to learn to rein this in eventually, right? So now I pressed Control-Shift-P, but I deleted the initial icon. So see that initial icon there with the greater than symbol. That's actually what signifies that this is going to be the command palette. If I actually delete that, it's now the same as if I just did Control and P, which is the file menu. So Control P's file menu. But if I do this, I've now transformed it into the tool menu. So I'm just going to build my dev container. Now, if you notice at the moment, I can't build anything using the shortcuts. Okay, and this is important to note because this is something that people often get confused. So if I come up here normally, I won't be able to do this. Let's just go now to, I can't go to the terminal either. I was about to go to the terminal. So let's go over here now and let's commit this. Let's just call it commit message test, I know. Again, this is just for demonstration purposes. Okay, so that's now been cool. Right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the actual Git repo and we're going to deploy the code space. So we can go here and we can go to the repository. Now, if I click here on this green icon, we can see I have no code spaces present. I can create a code space on main. Now, this icon will present itself to you even if you haven't got a dev container. What we're hoping is going to happen here is that VS Code is going to pick up on our dev container and it's going to deploy it and it's going to run it. And I guess the lesson there was, if it doesn't find your dev container, it will build into the default container. Now we might get some errors and stuff, because I don't think I remember building those scripts. Did I build the post test? So you can see here now we're on our custom image. And that's been built. Now from here, if I press Control-Shift-P, you'll see, because I'm now in a code space, I'm actually on a full build platform. I can actually now do a full rebuild of our container, but I wouldn't be able to do it before. And you can see here, look, you can see now, oh God, I spelled that wrong, didn't I? But you can see now, this would be after it's attached. So this is now, completely attached. And that would have run. Now, I actually want some custom stuff in my container. So I wanted to build it first quickly to sort of get it into GitHub and show you it just being built. And then I thought what we could then do is we could go back and actually show you how I get some of the sort of interesting tools and features and stuff that I need that make this more interesting. So what we could do, if we stop the code container, now don't get me wrong, I can build in here, we can keep building, but there's actually a little widget I want to show you. So if we actually go and close this code space, so it's Control-Shift-P, and then just do stop current code space. Okay, so that's stopping. Now, if we go back to our repo here, if we click on our dev container, and then we click on this again, and then go to the edit, what you'll see on the on the right-hand side, what you'll see on the right-hand side is a whole group of marketplace features. Now, after a while of working with the Codespaces and stuff, you'll actually start to have snippets of features that you commonly use, and you'll actually come in here and you'll start to type these things in yourself, and you can go, oh, GHCR, blah, 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 blah. Now, again, this would also be easier with the IntelliSense. But let's say you wanted to just find things that you already knew existed, but you don't remember the titles. And in this case, I want some of the Azure function tools. You can come in here and rather, remembering it's JLaundry, DevContainer, -features, or whatever it is, or something laundry anyway. But you can just come in here and go like that. And then if we just type here, can you see all these options that are coming up? So if we're over here and I click here, it's going to give me the actual block that I can go in and I can paste. So now I can actually use these and get access to these tools. So, and I can also specify versions. So let's say I had like, I don't know, the Node, for example. I could specify Node version 16, I don't know, or whatever. But typically you'll find either version numbers or you'll find another nomenclature like latest. So let's say, I don't know, I wanted Docker in Docker or something like this, right? So Docker in Docker to give us Docker in Docker. I type that, Docker in Docker. Let's click on that. Let's copy this in. You can see here as well, so version, and you can see I can have latest, I can specify none or particular version. So what I could do there is I could just go like that. So this is Docker in Docker, and this is saying Docker in Docker 2, but this could also be latest. And you can also specify other settings and things in here as well. So this is why some of these other things show up, and we can have other settings that you can add into your container. In my particular example, I have a use case that I'm trying to get to, and I just really want to sort of show you guys how I build these things. So what I'm actually now going to do is I'm actually going to paste in my features that I need for this particular thing, and maybe we just have a quick look at them together. But this is just more for an educational thing as I build my container. But this is what I'm going to be needing for my container. The formatting is a bit off there. Right, I'm going to have to tidy this up with my little OCD bit, but essentially, yeah. So these are some of the things that I'm going to be adding to my container, and we've got things like SSH to SSH in Python. There's a bit of this in .NET. This is quite a big project, but yeah. So this will be my dev container, and then I'll just rename my title after I stop recording. But yeah, and I'll also have other customizations in the code space as well. Just to, again, like this, just throw this in here as well. So some of the things I do with code spaces on some big projects where I have, how to say this, if I have to give people big projects where I want people to see files at the start, like certain readmes or certain instructions and descriptions, I use this a lot, and it's the open files directive. So I just do open files like that. And then inside your repository, you might have something like, I know, a readme.md or something like that. and you want that to open up as soon as they open up. Also, as well, within here, you can also have like these post start commands as well. So when somebody starts, and you can have something like that. You see, it's a lot harder when you haven't got the highlighting on, but you can do something like that, and it might even be that you have something like this, maybe another whatever. But anyway, we digressing a bit, and I think we've gone around the houses a little bit, and of course I'm going to filter down some of these things specifically for my project, but potentially there you've had a good idea of what it takes to build these things, and then once you've built this, let's just go back into, so we can either restart the code space here, or we could go back into the root of this widget repository and click here, and we can see here's our legendary winner code space. And actually we could open this up in VS Code, or we could open this up in the browser. If we open up in the browser, we've got a nice terminal down here. Things are still loading, but yeah, things are still loading. But the point I was going to get to anyway, guys, is let's just go and pull down. Things like that. There's our port coming up now. But let's just pull down that. Oh crap! Okay, right, of course. So I had the thing down. The point I was going to get to now, guys, is, and I really should start putting a bit more thought in before I start pressing record. But the point I was going to get to is, we can pull these things in and then go in here and then just do like a full rebuild. Oops. So it would be like full rebuild like that, and then you just rebuild over the code space. Sometimes you don't need a full rebuild. It can just be a rebuild, but you get the idea. But that's building a code space, and that's probably a lot longer than I was expecting to go for. But maybe that might be useful to a couple of you that are looking to deploy some code spaces. Anyway, until next time, cheers.